Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is my pilot episode for my first ever podcast. And on this first episode, I have one of my really great friends here with me. His name is Vicente Ramos. Now, Vicente, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, if you will.
Thanks, Juan. And thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Vicente Ramos, guys, and I'm a software engineer. I've known Juan for a few years. We usually, whenever we meet up, we talk a ton about tech, and he said if I could come on his podcast, and I was more than happy to come.
Thank you so much. So Vicente is very talented. He's such a smart dude, and for all you tech heads, he is just as much of a brainiac as much as we are. Now, what I will say, of course, this is my introductory pilot. We're going to go ahead and make it a whole concurrent, probably 59 minutes. So if there are any faux pas, oh well, that's all part of the game, right? So another thing is that I know a lot of you guys do like my long form content. Nowadays, YouTube really is transforming, where now there's YouTube shorts, there's a lot of YouTubers who solely rely on live streams, and then there's a lot of YouTubers that also all they do is podcasting. This podcast is meant to be just in the background. Maybe you're coming home after a day from work, or maybe you're headed to the gym, or maybe if you're an iPad kid, you might just be eating some cereal and want a podcast there onto the side. So again, I do apologize if there's any mistakes. We're going to try our very best to not make any faux pas, but like I said, guys, I really do hope you enjoy. This will hopefully be a little more of a personification of who I am. And then every time I have a guest, of course, will be someone who has either impacted my life or who I can learn something from. So without further ado, there is one important topic that we wanted to talk about on my pilot episode, and that is, drum roll, Apple Vision Pro. So I know a lot of you guys watching definitely saw WWDC. At this point, I believe it was last month in June. Vicente has done a little bit of some homework because he traditionally is not an Apple guy, and we will get into that in just a second. But now, Vicente, what do you know about Apple's Vision Pro?
They're going to try to do something with the Oculus, but not exactly like the Oculus. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it.
Of course.
So from what I've seen is that there's going to be a headset that you can kind of put on, and it's going to have a monitor in the front that it's going to kind of show how your eyes look from the inside, so it doesn't look like you're not like looking straight. And it's not gonna be exactly like the Oculus. It's similar because what they're trying to do is do AR, and with that is like they still want you to see like your area, your surrounding. And the Oculus, basically you're like somewhere else. You're transported to like under the ocean or in a jungle. But I've seen that with the Apple VR, they're trying to kind of just have it as an extension, kind of like a monitor in front of you. I don't know if they'll be able to in the future do like VR to where like they put you in games and movies and stuff like that. But from what I've seen, it looks good so far.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big kind of game changer is that for anyone who has tried an Oculus, I've put it on before, and the thing is just like Vicente said, you're not aware of your surroundings, right? So if you're not careful, there's plenty of games and just a lot of things that you can do on the Oculus. For example, you can go into a blackjack room and play blackjack with some people. It's not going to be for real money. It's for this fake virtual currency. But the thing is you're so immersed in that world that if you're not careful and if you start walking around, you might bump into a wall and really hurt yourself. Now, Vicente, have you tried the Oculus before?
Yes, like twice. And
what do you think?
So the first time I was like, I'm going to try it on, I don't know if this is going to be a new experience or not, but the moment like I put it on, one thing was like putting the Oculus over my eyes, and then another thing was the second I put the headphones on, I forgot I was in the Apple store, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, the Microsoft store at that point.
I was gonna say,
I was like that's not even out yet, and like I was the demo I was using, it was a under the ocean kind of demo, and it was you basically just how the ocean is with you in it, and you could like kind of like look around. You could see a blue whale going by, you can see some fish, I got scared because like I turned around and it looked like there was a shark coming. But I literally felt like I wasn't in the store, because of the sound. I think the only thing I was missing was like the touch. So
Right.
it was really cool.
And I think that's the biggest differentiator with Apple Vision Pro and the Oculus, because with the Oculus, you actually have two little controllers that kind of guide you with whatever game you're playing or whatever. And it does seem really fluid. Like, I mean, for example, in Blackjack, you press a little button and it's almost as if you're actually like handling some chips. Like at a poker table or whatever. But with Apple Vision Pro, there's absolutely no controllers. And really, me and Vicente were talking about this earlier. All of the technology that's inside Apple Vision Pro is absolutely incredible, because really what it relies on is the tracking of your eyes is really what it's going to like hone in on. And apart from that, there's no controllers either. So you could very well be looking into the Apple Vision Pro and like, let's say you're on your home screen or whatever, there's no controller needed. Like wherever your eyes go, like the icons will kind of pop out, kind of like in some of Apple's hardware, like on Apple TV. If you run your finger across the touchpad, then the bubbles will start to, similar to like the trackpad. If you run the trackpad at the very bottom of the dock, how some of the icons will start popping up or whatever. It's the same concept, but it's like all with your eyes.
Yeah.
And it looks so fluid. I mean, did you see did you watch WWDC or no?
No, I didn't. But I did see some demos, quote unquote demos, how it should work. And the thing is, like how Juan said, that the controller is not going to be like an actual controller you're going to hold. It's going to actually be your fingers. The gestures you're going to be doing. I believe to click on something, you got to just go like this. And here's the cool part. Since it has like so many sensors on the front part of the monitor, I guess it's like taking a like view of what everything is happening. So when you go like this, you don't have to do like this in front of the VR. You can just literally just have your finger on the table or on your chair and just move it like this, and it'll know that you're trying to click something, or if you're scrolling left, scrolling right. So I was like, that's really nice, because it would be kind of annoying having to pick up your hand, move it every time you wanted to do something. So that was like that's really nice.
They've just covered all angles, because I agree. Just imagine like you have your hand raised for so long, you're just swiping. Like it's really cool that it's just. But another thing is like just the viewing experience, or at least from what I've seen. Like I made a funny TikTok. I don't know if it was really all that funny, but have you heard of the Denny's Grand Slam?
Yes.
It's hilarious. So for anyone who's seen that meme, literally when it came out, it was such a meme. It's this like metal band at a Denny's. Like I didn't even know you could rent out a Denny's. How they did that, who knows? They probably like knew the owner or whatever. But they're having a full on metal show right there, and then the singer is just like, "What the F is up, Denny's?" And then bruh, circle pits and everything, and everyone's just like going crazy. So anyway, like I made a TikTok about the reason I want to get the Vision Pro is to witness that event in all of its glory, because it looked like when you put them on, or at least from the demos that I've seen, it's going to be the best way to like watch movies or like watch anime, because it's like it literally looks like this widescreen cinema that you're in. Like it's just it's a lot of crazy technology. But you know what's really absolutely absurd, Vicente?
What is it?
The price.
Yeah.
Tell them how much it is. Go ahead.
I believe it was $3,500. Well, $3,499.
That's how they get you. It tricks your brain. But $3,500. I've always said that.
Wait. Does it come with a charging cable?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a good one, because Apple's been known to. But speaking of charging, so already two chief complaints that some people are having. Some people are saying that it's really heavy. So for how long will someone be able to have that on their head? And what is that going to do for the longevity of people's necks? Like if you wear it for like 5 hours, what's that going to do to your neck? And then the other thing, though, is that from what I've read, right, of course, it'd be nice if it were out already to have reviewers go out and test it. But it must be connected pretty much all the time, because if it's not, I think it only has a battery life of like 2 hours. So not all that good.
I mean, with any products, it's going to be like that for the first few iterations. And if you look at the first cell phone, I mean, it wasn't the size that we're used to now. It was a big brick, and it was heavy and, cost radiation. And now it's like, I mean, an iPhone, it's like what, like this thin?
Yeah.
So I feel like after, if it does get adapted, and if you give it like it sounds like a long time, but if you give it like 5-10 years, they probably might make it a lot lighter and a lot smaller.
I think so. And then some people were kind of hoping for like Apple glasses. I know that we also spoke about it earlier today. You had some pretty good ideas of what you think Apple glasses could become, right?
Yeah. I did also do a little bit of research before the podcast, and it seems that it's going to be like a less powerful VR headset where it's going to be AR as well, but just of your usage of your phone. Like, I believe you'll be able to check your messages, emails, weather, photos, but I don't know if you'll actually be able to watch, on them. I'm not really sure if it's going to have the same functionality as far as like clicking with your hand or whatnot, or if you actually have to take your phone out. But I did see them, and I was telling Juan, I was like, and no offense to any Apple fanboys or fangirls out there,
Here it comes.
but I was telling him that like I'm pretty sure he would probably get them because he uses glasses from time to time. But I told him, like, as somebody that uses glasses all the time, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit extra if I could like use my phone on my glasses, if I have to use glasses anyways. And I don't know, it would be something really nice that Apple could kind of like jump into and get additional revenue if they do decide to do that.
No, yeah, of course. Kind of, that just reminded me, just I guess the comparison between the Oculus, which now seems really inferior. Now that Apple Vision has been introduced, I mean, you can already see the differences in quality between the two. But that did remind me, because obviously Oculus is a Meta product, right? And then Apple competes in them in various factors. That's like one of the few pieces of hardware that Meta actually has. But they recently released a new product, which is a social media. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Threads. Now, for anyone who's made a Thread account, RIP, most if not all of your information is probably stolen at this point. But then again, I mean, I guess if you have Instagram and Facebook and Messenger and WhatsApp, I'm sure they have it already as well. But you've heard about Threads, right?
Yeah, I've heard about Threads, how they're trying to do like their own Twitter copy. But I mean, at this point, Twitter has a whole empire. They have, a lot of videos. Everybody uses it and they use it daily. So for them to incorporate like Threads in Instagram, yeah, like everybody has an Instagram, but like, are they really gonna like go out of the way to open another app just to post stuff when they already have Twitter to post everything?
Look, exactly. That's just the main complaints. I'm actually working on a Threads video right now, and I'm actually gonna attach a card somewhere here on that video, so that way you guys can check it out. See, the thing is that, like, why does it exist? Like, it's literally like Mark Zuckerberg just loves to copy and paste already existing ideas and just rebranding it, but the Meta way. But in that video, guys, I'll explain that, dude. Like, if you were to go into the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, or whatever, just look before you download Threads. Just look at all, because I don't know if Google does this or if Samsung devices do this, but at least on the App Store, it shows you exactly what information any certain app wants to harvest from you, right? Dude, Threads is like a long list of like different things, like your biometrics. So think about that. If you have like your face stored in Face ID, it wants to take that information. If you have a device with Touch ID or whatever, it wants to get that. And then if you look closely, there's another section called sensitive information. So if you go and research what sensitive information means, I mean, we're talking your political views, your religious beliefs, your DNA history, whatever that means, like siblings, like ovulation, like pregnancy status, like what? Like, you're giving all of that away.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I don't know.
The App Store, from what I've seen, the Google Play Store, I haven't seen that on there. It might be because it might be in the terms and conditions that people don't read. And I know that nobody reads that from the Play Store.
Hell no, nobody reads. I definitely don't.
The only thing that is in the Play Store when you go and look at the app is the version, the specifics, and then a summary of the game. That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Apple has been known, or at least on the surface of things, they like to portray themselves as, you know, being transparent with privacy, which from what I've seen, they're pretty good with it. I mean, like, do you remember that one story a while ago? Maybe it was like a couple years ago. I don't remember the exact details, but it was like some murderer or serial killer or whatever, and he was unaliving like a lot of people. And then the police like were interrogating him and whatever, and they found his phone, but they needed to get into it, and he refused to give them the password. So then I think they approached someone high up at Apple and was like, "Hey, we need this cell phone unlocked. Like, this is a trial that has to do with a murder," and they refused.
Yeah,
because they believe that everyone is entitled to their privacy.
Yeah, we actually talked about that in my debate class in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So then you might know a little bit more than I do, because I just remember it like, you know, just barely.
The only thing that we talked about was the point of view. Like, should or should they not, like, give up their right to privacy after they committed a crime or not? And it was really great. It was a really long class that day. So, sorry, I didn't mean to make you spit the water out almost.
It's just, I bet there was very adamant stances on both sides.
Yeah, because, I mean, they were kind of saying, like, okay, it might, you know, today it might be, you know, somebody that was killed, which is reasonable. But what if they make something else a law? And then they're like, oh, well, unlock this person's phone because of, you know, this, he's breaking a law. Then at that point, it's like, okay, then where's the line? And that's what the debate for that class was. But yeah, they're actually really, really, really good for like keeping everything secure, everything. They don't let anything out unless you consent to, you know, releasing information or opening something, a setting in your MacBook.
Gotcha.
So they're good.
Yeah. Speaking of, so I think I forget which iOS version it was. I think it was like iOS 15 or 14, where they start, and this like doomed Meta for a while. They were scrambling because this was the update where it started to ask people up front. Essentially, when you download an app and open it, it'll say, this app like wants to track your location, or it wants to track certain things. Do you want like to allow this? And you can either, you know, put ask to track only when app is open, or ask not to track at all. And that really hurt a lot of Meta's bottom line, because almost their entire business model has been like built on this whole idea of selling people's like customer information. Like, as well, this reminds me, did you ever hear of that one story where Target got like in some deep waters because of a dad? I don't know if he sued them. I think he did. I'm not sure if he was successful, because she was pregnant. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
So it goes like this. There was a father, right? And his daughter was young. I want to say she was like 16 or something like that, 17 even. And Target, you know, she very much frequented Target, but Target was starting to send her not only electronic ads, but also like coupons in the mail for like baby cribs and like baby formulas and stuff like that. Well, the father got a little upset, because it's just like, well, it seems like this is very targeted. My daughter's not pregnant. Like, what's going on here, right? Well, come to find out, she found out a couple weeks later that she actually was pregnant.
Really?
So it's like technology has gotten so far advanced that Target and whatever kind of AI or whatever technology they were using, they knew before she even knew that she was pregnant.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, they have so much information that, like, I'm not surprised. And kind of wanted to touch up on the point that you were saying about the three options that the apps kind of were asking about: only while using the app, don't consent, or never. The Play Store and the apps have something like that, but the catch is like, if you don't accept it, some apps don't let you like even use them.
Wow.
Yeah, like for example, there's a dinosaur game I play, right? And you have to kind of give your GPS location. If not, then you can't use it. And then going back to another thing you were talking about, how Apple doesn't really give information out, right? So I don't know if you heard this back, but this kind of related to Pokemon Go, and I know you like to play Pokemon Go.
I was gonna bring that up because you can't play it either if you don't give them your GPS.
Right. But what happened was, I think it was like 2 years ago, that the players were using Apple phones to spoof, right? Because it was against Apple's terms and services, or something to track the information or go into the iPhone without the user's consent.
Right.
And what Niantic did was that to try to ban spoofers, they somehow went in and added something to their app that went in and saw exactly the real location versus the spoofing location, kind of compare them, and then banned it a lot. Like there was a big ban wave, and then like Apple found that out and is like, okay, you want to do that? We're taking you to court and we're going to sue you because of that. And then they unbanned the people because yeah. And I was like, wow, that Apple does a really good job protecting people's privacy.
And by the way, for those that aren't well aware with that term spoofing is just basically like on games like Pokemon Go that are GPS centric. Spoofing is where you trick the game through other software to trick it into being in a location that you're not. Kind of sort of like a VPN where, you know, with a VPN you can, certain websites are restricted or completely different in other countries and whatnot. So you can make the application think that you're somewhere that you're not. Spoofing is very similar, where people on Pokemon Go, a lot of the times, if you're a rural player, like out in the middle of Nebraska or something, a lot of players would spoof to like the middle of Manhattan, and then that way there's like a ton more Pokemon and stuff like that.
Or do a Pokefest.
Yeah. But no, that's crazy, dude. I was going to mention something else, but before I forget, I did want to say that with that whole debate with like the whole Target fiasco that happened with that dad, and then also with the serial killer, it just goes to show how technology, ever since it kind of started to really outpace the global world, maybe we're talking at the turn of the century during the 2000s, where technology really was starting to just really blow up, is when it gets very tricky. Because of course, here in the United States, our privacy laws are completely different than, like, let's say the European continent. Like, for example, Threads isn't even allowed to be downloaded in Europe because in most European countries, they have way stricter laws when it comes to privacy. And Apple historically has butt heads a lot with the European Union, because I don't know if you knew, because you don't have an iPhone, which we will touch because he does have a MacBook, though, but no iPhone. But anyway, you have heard, though, that with the new upcoming iPhone 15, like, it has officially been ruled that on the European continent, all phones sold within the region, specifically iPhones, must be sold with a USB-C port. And this is going to hurt Apple's bottom line a lot, because they have had the Lightning connector all the way back since like the iPhone 5. So think how many iterations of the iPhones that's been, and all of the accessories that they make money off of due to that Lightning port.
Wait, how'd you charge your phone then when you went to Europe?
Well, the port was still the same, you know, but like the actual connection is what I mean. So
okay.
Now, starting with the iPhone 15, like, instead of it being a Lightning port, doesn't your phone have a USB-C connection?
Yep.
Okay, so now iPhones starting with the iPhone 15 in Europe are gonna be all USB-C, no more Lightning.
Was it confirmed? Because I heard that it was just a rumor.
No, it's been confirmed. And now, just to avoid like headaches and stuff like that, it seems like all across the board, all iPhones, even here in America, are probably going to transition to USB-C, which is what a lot of us have been waiting for, like, forever. It's about time. Like, the MacBooks as well is another classic example. Like, the MacBooks now have USB-C, whereas before they were still like the dingy USB 2.0 ports, you know, the more squarish one. And Apple was so late to the game with USB-C, and it's just like, dude, what are y'all waiting for? Yeah.
Now, I will say, though, with my MacBook, I do like the magnetic charge. Like, it's
MagSafe.
Yeah. It's like I don't even have to fight to like put it in. It's just I just get a close seat. Boop. And I almost did rip it though, because the first time I was moving it, I was like, why won't this come off? And I was yanking instead of like tilting it.
And it like slid off?
No,
Almost did.
It didn't.
Oh, that's good.
I was, and that's why I was afraid that like I was gonna rip it, because I was like, okay, there's no way this thing's like stuck on there. So then I did some search online, and they're like, yeah, you just have to tilt it. And I'm like, I was like, whoa,
Dude. Okay, so I have a funny story about that, because okay, there was an era of MacBooks. It was before you got yours. It was an era of MacBooks where everyone was confused, and it was so obvious that that Apple was doing this huge cash grab move. So you might not remember, but a lot of my viewers probably do remember the horrible era of MacBooks that had the touch bar. Do you remember that?
no, but I heard about it.
So the touch bar was just this really gimmicky thing, and during this generation of MacBooks, they switched up the keyboard as well. It wasn't the scissor style keyboards that we're used to now. It was a whole different mechanism. They had like, instead of having dome switches, it was called the butterfly mechanism. So these keys were like really, really clicky, but they were like, if one key went out, the whole keyboard went out. You know what I mean? And people hated it. And then on top of that, during this era, the Pro model MacBooks, it lost MagSafe, it lost the SD card connection, it lost HDMI, and it was just like 4 USB-C ports, and that's it.
Wow.
And we're talking on Pro MacBooks. So everyone, including myself, was infuriated, because now if you wanted, like if you're a photographer, a videographer like myself, you had to go buy a dongle. And you bought a $2,500 Pro computer. It's like, Apple, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. You probably you weren't an Apple fan, or I mean, you still aren't technically.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Okay, don't hate me, but I'm kind of, that's another reason why I didn't, after the iPhone 6, I didn't really go back to iPhone, because I was like,
Oh, I didn't even know that you had an iPhone 6.
I did. I still do. Well, so now it's an iPhone 7, because I traded it to a friend of mine. Anyways, and the reason I didn't like the 7 was because like everything I did, I couldn't do like customize anything, or like any songs I had and I don't know if it was that because at that time I was like unknowledgeable of like the Apple products and how to use them, but I couldn't download music without actually paying for it in the Play Store, or I'm sorry, in Apple Music, and with Android, and I don't know why there's a difference, but with Android you could like download a song from YouTube if you have the software, or just from drag and drop from like another list from the computer to your phone, without going through any like security measures and stuff like that. So you know, I don't know, like I kind of liked a little bit more the freedom of the Android. And I know a lot of people would say, oh, you should have jailbreaked it, but I don't want to break the phone, you know?
I gotcha. Yeah, everyone, including myself, like I am so deep in the Apple ecosystem. This is why I know I'm an Apple sheep, and not. So there's like different levels, bro. There's like Apple lover, Apple fanboy, then there's the Apple sheep. Okay. The thing is, I have just about every single product that Apple has to offer. I'm talking, look, HomePod, iPhone, iPads, MacBooks, Apple TV,
bands.
Apple Watch, all these bands. What else am I missing? Like even their official cases. But they do this on purpose, just because like what you mentioned, the whole like even on the HomePod, for example, it only supports Apple Music. So for anyone who uses Spotify or Pandora or anything else like Pandora, you're screwed. You know what I mean? And it's kind of similar like with the Apple Watch. Like if you buy an Apple Watch and you have like a Samsung device, I know you didn't do your research. Go ahead and return the Apple Watch, because it's useless. Like it's not going to pair.
Yeah.
And so Apple's closed ecosystem has been a subject of controversy for so long, because like if you already have all these products, God, it's so hard to switch. Like think about someone like me, for example, who has an iPhone, who has a MacBook. All of these services are great. Like I love Apple Music, and hot take, I prefer it over Spotify.
Wait, you can't use Apple Music on like Google Home?
On Google Home you can.
Oh.
But not vice versa. You can't use Spotify, for example, on the HomePod. You can only use Apple Music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guess I can see your point, but I mean, if you ever decide to go to like Windows or okay, I will say that the only thing I do agree with you on not switching is the MacBook Pro. But everything else, like I don't think that there's a wall for switching your stuff over. I know there might be like, you know, we can't transfer this over from the Android because we don't know where to put it, or it doesn't have like authentication to use this app or something like that. But I'm pretty sure you can go from Apple to Android.
You definitely can. It's just it's a lot harder than like going from a Google device to like a Samsung device, and it's because of all the neat features that you're already so used to. Like you haven't used AirPlay as much, but any Apple user who has an iPhone and a MacBook know how useful AirPlay is. Or even from iPhone to iPhone, like you can just share a picture through AirPlay. So both of you guys just turn on your AirPlay. Let me shoot you. Like I do this with my mom all the time, and every time she's so amazed because like she takes horrible pictures, and it's not to roast her, but it's just like, Mom, like you're holding it all weird, like you're taking pictures like a typical mom. So anyway, I'll be her photographer for like our home events, right? It'll be like 120 photographs.
You're like, she doesn't know English.
She does not know English, but I'm going to have her on a podcast episode, and it's going to be fully in Spanish. All of my Spanish, mi raza, be on the lookout. Va a estar buena esa plática, because my mom is just so wise, and she's such a sweetheart. But anyway, so yeah, like at the last party that we had, I think it was for my brother or whatever. Yeah, like I took like 140 photos and then like several videos. So then she's just like, "Oh, mijo, like, can you send them to me?" So okay, I just, I grab her phone, I grab my phone because they were taken on my phone, AirPlay, turn on AirPlay, boom, send it to my mom's phone. Within seconds, she has everything, and every single time she's just so amazed. She's like, "But how'd you do it so quick?" I'm like, "Bro, Mom, if I were to explain, just trust me. It's just I got you."
So Android actually added something very similar. I forgot the exact name, but it's in the most recent update. You don't connect. It's like connecting directly from one phone to another, but they have to be kind of close. And it's not the N thing, the NFT thing.
It's different.
It's different.
Is it like, does it run through Bluetooth?
No, it doesn't. It's actually, yeah. It's like I think it runs through the wireless of both phones, or I don't know what it is, but it's not Bluetooth, because I thought it was Bluetooth, and I was like, well, Bluetooth's kind of slow,
Right.
But no, like how you were telling me about your mom. My sister sent me 3 videos, and they were both 10 minutes long, and I think it only took like 30 seconds.
Not bad. Those are good speeds.
So
yeah, I mean, in many regards, all companies catch up to each other, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just all these nifty features, and then especially, I'm glad that I'm bringing this up. So like, dude, the whole blue bubble, green bubble debate is hotly contested, and let me tell you. So in one of my stat classes, we actually had a data set pertaining to this exact scenario. So when I travel to Europe, dude, you do not see iPhones. Especially, like, I'm Mexican, so now I haven't been to Mexico in a while, but if you travel somewhere to Mexico, the thing is that like iPhones are so out of reach for like people in Latin America and even in Europe, because if an iPhone here costs $9.99, over there is going to cost the equivalent of maybe $13.99, and then in their currency on top of that. So like the average Mexican is going to make a lot less than like the average American, at least stat wise, right? So it's just really out of reach. But it's only here in America where everywhere you turn, it's kind of this social stigma that if you don't have an iPhone, something is wrong with you. And then especially in the dating realm. And that's where we had our data set in one of my stat classes. And we had to conclude via statistical methods why that is. Like, is it truly because of the iPhone stigma here in America? So, we analyzed data, and yes, we concluded by numbers, by using statistics, that predominantly women in the dating realm, right? And this is interesting because let's say you take your average American girl, and then she, I don't know, matches on Tinder or whatever with your average American guy. They text for they exchange numbers and whatever. By the sheer fact of her seeing a green bubble, it does something to us here in America that's just like, wait, that's weird. When in reality, it's not. It's been far proven that Androids and Google devices are far superior hardware-wise. But here in America, it's just like, it's iPhone or bust, you know?
Yeah.
So what's your take on that blue and green bubble debate?
Don't go to Mexico to date.
Well, Mexico or here.
Yeah, well, I'm saying because if nobody in Mexico really has an iPhone, you go there and you try to find something to date, like all you're gonna see is green bubbles.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of think that it's gonna get to a point where, yeah, I agree that the green versus blue it's not, at the end of the day, like, is that really gonna pay your bills? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's more of the preference per person, and I don't know. I feel like it's going to get to the point where somehow either Android or, you know, some other carrier or company that makes phones, it's going to find a way to, I guess, mask that, because I know that some people on YouTube were able to kind of make especially programmers. They were able to make a program on the computer where they could send text. It would connect to Apple's server, and then convert it into a blue message for the person to see on the other side. But you have to be very, very, very technical to like do something like that. So I mean, it's not out of reach. So you know that might maybe in 5-10 years might sink out. But yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah, and I mean, Apple implements small little tricks that may seem benign to a lot of people, but just like if you were to text me, right, then I would receive your green bubble, and I wouldn't be able to interact with that bubble, right? So like, for example, with iPhone users, many iPhone users know this, like if I were to receive an iMessage from an iPhone user, and if it's just something that I don't even need to reply to, like, hey, I'm on my way or whatever, you just kind of hold it and then send like a little thumbs up.
So I do want to add on to that. I have some family members that do have iPhone, and whenever they interact with it, like put thumbs up, heart, whatever,
you get a different text message, right?
Yeah, I get it. It'll say like so and so liked it, or so and so thumbs up.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Apple has these like little things that just it really kind of reinforces the idea that, hey, you need to stay here on the blue bubble side. You know what I mean? And it's silly when you think about it, because at the end of the day, what is the difference? MKBHD actually, he's like the biggest YouTuber here on this platform, at least in terms of tech. He has this awesome video, guys. If you guys are interested in this debate, he really gets into the nitty gritty with like just the whole stigma, and just has a really fantastic video on this whole debate. You guys should definitely check it out. I'll include his video in this podcast description. I just think it's a fascinating topic to talk about. But I did want to lastly go ahead and tie back what we were talking about earlier to, you know, talk again about like the whole Meta debacle, and then the Apple thing, and just social media in general, like with threads and everything. I know that I brought up to you before about this Black Mirror episode. Do you remember me telling you?
Yeah, I remember we talked about it like a few days ago.
Yeah, it's part of the new season. I believe it's like episode 1 or 2. I think it's episode 1 of the brand new season of Black Mirror. I don't think you've watched it yet. I told you you should watch it.
I've been really busy.
I know. But anyway, I think the episode's called like Joan is Hated or Joan is Evil or something like that. But yeah, the premise basically, it's fascinating how it ties into like today's modern society. Basically, the whole premise is this girl is living her life. Like initially at the beginning of the episode, she has to fire someone. The girl's cheating on her man. Really, just like not some good things, right? So then when she finally gets home to her man and they want to watch Netflix, they call it something else, but it's essentially Netflix. Then come to find out, there's this show, and you know the girl's name is Joan or whatever, and it's like Joan is Hated or Joan is Evil. I forget what the name of the episode is, and they're like, this is weird. So then they click on it, and it's literally like word for word her exact actions of the day that she just had. So it's essentially mimicking like her day, and it's just like, whoa, what the hell? And the next day happens, and it's like a brand new episode, and like within that show, and it's the exact same thing as she's doing. And what's so hilarious, dude, I forgot to mention last time, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, just go ahead and fast forward like 20 seconds. But are you fine with spoilers, or do you want me to
I'm
not
fine with
spoil it?
spoilers.
Okay, good, because I'm also okay with spoilers. People can tell me, just tell me what happens. I really don't care. But people will fight you over spoilers. So anyway, fast forward 20 seconds. But she goes into like this church, and I think just like poops all over the church. Gets arrested for it for like, I'm sure that's some kind of disorderly conduct or just public indecency. And in that episode, that same exact thing happens. But the thing is that the actor, I know it sounds confusing, but the actor that's portraying the Netflix character, she gets upset because her likeness is now being used in this way. So they try to sue the company, but they're like, nope, you agreed to the fine print. And she's like, what? Like, what fine print? I never signed anything. And whole stack like this, and it's just like, well, you know when you get asked if you accept the terms and conditions, you mentioned it earlier, and how nobody reads that. Well, when you hit accept, you'd be surprised at what exactly you're accepting. But the thing is, nobody has 36 hours to read all of that.
It reminds me of the episode of South Park where was it Kyle or Stan, like they were chosen to from Steve Jobs to make the human centipede, and they went to like the Apple geniuses to like void the contract.
I think I remember watching that episode. It's been a while, but man, dude, see that's where like the whole AI thing is just crazy to me, because the whole thing with like deep fakes and everything, like it's starting to get crazy, because like, I mean, the first deep fake that really started to get people's attention was with President Zelensky of Ukraine. I'm not sure if you remember, but when the war initially started, there was a deep fake, which, by the way, for anyone watching that doesn't know what a deep fake is, basically it's just that. It's a fake video of somebody's likeness using AI. And normally people use public figures for this because they have so many photographs of them out on the internet. A lot of people know their voice, and this AI is just trained so well to just gather all of these photographs and like all of these interviews and like really get their voice and mannerisms even down to a T. So anyway, this is when the public really started to catch attention of deepfakes, because apparently Zelensky had said to his troops, like, yeah, just go ahead and put up your arms, like we're done here, like basically insinuating that the war was over. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't real, and it was circulating through Twitter. And you know how Twitter is. Once something controversial happens, it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like, if we're not very careful, like, that legit can start wars, you know? And at the end of the day, like, the more advanced AI technology gets, the more advanced and realistic it looks. Like, we're going to get to a point where we, like, start questioning, like, did you really say that, you know? Because, like, at that point, how do we know that, you know, we can't make up something and present it in court and be like, yeah, I got a recording of that person saying it, you know, and then guilty, and the guy's actually innocent. So that's really dangerous.
Exactly. This is where, I mean, technology, I used to be 1000% pro technology, like, yay, but the older you grow, you're just like, wait, this could have some very serious repercussions. Like, I know I've told you before, but I'm going to reiterate for the podcast, because I'm sure a lot of people would find this fascinating, is, well, before I say that, is just, let me preface with, imagine what certain governments can do with this untold power that a lot of their people don't even know about. Like, if you look at North Korea, like, of course, Kim Jong-il, like, is very aware of the internet and whatnot, but North Koreans have no clue what the internet is. And on top of that, like, in other countries like China, YouTube isn't even allowed. So, like, you're never going to get a comment from, like, a native Chinese person, like, in China, because it's not allowed, unless, of course, they maneuver their way around with, like, VPNs or whatever. But then you risk being thrown in jail.
Yeah.
But anyways, with that, it's just like the authority and the power that technology can have. I mentioned it to you the other day, but there was this insane study that I thought was really fascinating. It's a little immoral, but it had to deal with monkeys, right? And so in this study, what they did is they put 5 monkeys in a room about the size of this, if not a little bigger. And it's like, it was caged up and whatnot so that they couldn't escape. And they put a ladder in the middle of the room, right? And at the very top, occasionally, like every hour or so, they would dangle like a little bundle of bananas, right? And the immoral part comes is, like, of course, they're monkeys. They love bananas. It's just like, it's like in Donkey Kong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you collect bananas and whatnot. So, of course, they're monkeys. They're going to go up there and get the bananas. But the thing is they would spray them with, like, this really heavy hose with, like, some really cold water every time they tried. So, of course, after a while, all 5 monkeys were like, nobody better go up that ladder because whoever goes up there, we're going to get hosed. Okay. So then, like, hours later or a day later, I don't exactly know the time frame, but they removed one of the monkeys and they brought in a brand new one. Okay. Now, when the new banana bundle was dangled, the brand new monkey he doesn't know. So, of course, he's really excited, really jolly that he's about to go up the ladder. But even before he gets to the top, they bring him down and beat him the hell up. And you can imagine this monkey, like, why is this happening? Like, what? Like, why am I getting beat up? Okay, so they repeated that process, though. So, of course, this new monkey now started to, like, realize, I'm not supposed to go up there. I don't know why, but I'm not supposed to go up there. Otherwise, I'm going to get, beaten up. So then they kept doing that. The second monkey, of course, tries the same thing. Second monkey tries to go up. They beat him the hell up. Third one, fourth one, until the fifth one. So now at this point, there's a whole 5 monkeys in there that have never been hosed. Mind you, they don't know what's going to happen. All they know is that if anyone goes up that ladder, they're getting beat up by the other monkeys. They're going to get dragged down and they're going to receive a beating. And so that study is so fascinating to me because I feel like some of the evils of technology can kind of be used against people in a similar manner, like what happened with the election here in the United States back in 2016, Trump's election with Hillary.
Yeah.
All of the propaganda, all of the Russian bots on Twitter that were just feeding these people these things that they actually have no clue about the consequences. They just see something, it makes them emotional, act a certain way, and they utilize that. Arguably, it's not confirmed, but I mean, it kind of sort of is. And many would argue that's how Trump ascended his way into the presidency,
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because, I mean, a lot of people don't even question things. They just see something online. And that's what Meta and Mark Zuckerberg know precisely to a T. You can manipulate people's emotions. And like, for example, like, okay, post on Facebook, many studies have been done on this. If you scroll and posts that just receive a like, right, will be shown significantly less than, because for any non-Facebook user, like whenever you see a post, you can like hold down on the like, and then you're presented more options like a haha, or like a frustrated face, or like a love, care, or whatever, right? It's different options. The kind of posts that have like angry faces or like crying faces, they get pushed out even more because they convey emotions with people and therefore keep them on the platform longer so that they can be shown more ads.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's immoral. That's kind of messed up.
I kind of want to relate it back a little bit to what you said about the monkeys. I kind of feel like society is kind of like that as well, where like we started like a tradition or something a certain way a long time ago, but then like how you said that like new monkeys were introduced, like new people are born and they don't know why, like they do it that way, that tradition, and then like time goes by and then everybody's like, so how did it start and stuff like that, but nobody really knows. And I feel like over time that change of like how the monkeys, they were like, okay, we know we don't have to do that. I feel like our society is kind of like that, where like they want change, but at the same time like they tried, eventually they're like, okay, well, we're not supposed to do it like that. Maybe we have a little bit more sense where like if that one monkey was introduced into like maybe like 4 or 5 other monkeys that didn't like get beat up, like what would happen? Would the 5 monkeys beat up that one monkey because like he was beating up a monkey that was trying to get the bananas and they all like bananas? So it's it's kind of crazy to think about that.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why every government, not just the United States, some are worse at it, some are better at it, but every government is going to feed you some form of propaganda to keep the masses under control.
Yeah.
And I think that study really is kind of, like you said, you can bring many aspects of that study into true modern society. It's like a lot of workplaces as well that are toxic as hell. And it's just like, wait, there's a way more efficient, like for example, at some workplaces, like somebody could propose the idea. It's like, wait, hold on, why are we doing it this way when there's literally a much faster and better way to do it? And yet nothing gets done. They're not heard because that's just the way things have been done for so long. So that's what people just learn and adapt to. And the older people get, the more you age, I mean, people just kind of get set in their ways on average.
I want to add on to that like a lot of companies are big companies, and this is coming from like a software point of view, not where I'm at working right now, but I've seen a lot of companies use older legacy software, and they don't want to upgrade to the new software that like lets them do this and this and this, because they have so much data from the older software that it would cost them a lot more money to switch to a newer software than just keep using what they have now.
I never thought about it from that angle. That makes a lot of sense. It's probably why a lot of companies, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why a lot of companies still like try to hire like PHP developers whenever like we have HTML5 and like more of the newer like technologies, that offer new features. So I guess that's another way to think about it.
Dang, huh? Never would have thought about it like that. But all right, listen, Vicente, my whole thing with the podcast, I'm trying to keep them at or around an hour. And can you believe we're almost there? Like, we've almost been speaking for like a whole hour. That's kind of crazy.
It feels like 40 minutes, man.
It seems like it, but no, you'll see at the very end, it's going to be somewhere around 58 to 59 minutes. But before we do conclude, Vicente, first off, I do want to thank you so much for being on my pilot episode. Guys, like I told you all at the beginning, I really do want this just to be a relaxing setting for you guys, my viewers. Many times, I'll try to talk about tech, but if we deviate, the better, right? Just because I just like to just talk. I know you know me very well. If you allow me, I'll be here till 2 a.m. talking. You know what I mean? Until you have to be like, yo, I really gotta go.
I think we get that from our moms.
Oh yes, my dad also. He was a big storyteller and a good one at that. Just his hand motions, the lowering of his voice, and then so he just controlled his voice well. But before we do end, Vicente, is there anything else that you may want to tell us before we do shut the cameras off? Just because I know that you're a software engineer, and just let us know if there's anything else that you might want to tell us.
Before I go into that, how much time do I have? Because I don't want to run it over.
It's okay. I mean, under 5 minutes, but you got time.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll try to make this fast, but real quick, really quick. I don't know if you guys have heard of the game porting tool that Apple actually recently brought out. It was made for Apple developers to kind of like just be able to port games from like Windows and stuff that required DirectX 12 over to Apple. But what the Apple community and the Apple wiki gamers have basically done is they adapted that to get like games from DirectX 12 and Windows, and made them basically put a translation layer using the game porting tool, and made it to where like Apple, or you could play those games on a Mac, and for the most part it runs pretty good, like 30 to 50 frames per second on like AAA titles.
Right.
But like on the heavier games, it kind of goes down to like maybe 30. But with the newer version, the 0.2 version, they've actually increased the frames per second, and increased a lot of the issues that they had with other games. So for you Mac gamers out there that, I know people don't use Macs for gaming, but I feel like that line for gaming and Macs is kind of being erased little by little. And I want to see where this goes in like a year or two. So that was the only thing I kind of wanted to add.
That's awesome, dude, for sure. I'll make sure to plug any relevant information in the video description, just because you guys have probably seen some of my MacBook performance tests, and I always say, and I stand by it, typically MacBooks are not the go-to machines if you're wanting to do some hardcore gaming. Like, definitely get a dedicated laptop with like a really badass graphics card for that. But Vicente does prove a good point. Apple hardware is tremendously powerful. It's just the ability for like developers to work with the new Apple silicon that's kind of the issue right now. They're just lagging behind. But if you're a gamer, and you want to try that out, I'll attach like I said, any relevant links in the video description. I'm going to ask you before I do post that podcast if you can just send me all of that information, if that's cool.
And about the comment you were just saying just now about like how Apple, I don't know if I misheard you wrong, but you were saying about like how Apple may not have the ability to run like heavy games, but I kind of want to say that like having a MacBook Pro, playing games and not being on a charger actually there's no difference versus like a Windows game where like if you have a laptop, you disconnect the charger, the performance of the game, it goes down like all the way to like 30%.
Oh,
and
it starts
to like
it'll drop frames, right?
Yeah, it'll drop everything, and then you're like, well, at this point, I kind of have a desktop.
It's just like, let me plug it back in.
Exactly. So that was one of the things I really, really liked about MacBook Pros.
That's awesome, man. Well, me and Vicente have the same MacBook, which is cool, the 16-inch with the M1 Max. I think the only difference in our computers is that I believe mine just has a little bit more storage. And
mine has a little bit more RAM.
Yeah, I think, maybe. But guys, that's been it. I really did hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. It's been a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it's been a lot of fun for Vicente. We have a lot of future guests here planned for the podcast. A lot of my close friends, people that I look up to. My brother as well, who I've already collabed with before. He also has a YouTube channel. And who knows where this podcast will go one day. My plan is to upload these every 2 to 3 weeks. I really am going to shoot for 2 weeks and keep that consistent. But guys, as always, you guys have probably seen us drink some water throughout this podcast. I always advocate for people drinking water and staying hydrated, especially here in the South. Over here in the States, it's been a really hot summer. Don't get dehydrated. Drink your water. Vicente, any last words?
No, I just want to say thank you very much for having me here, dude. And hopefully, I'll come again.
Of course you will. Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. As I always say, I'm clocking out for now. Really hope you enjoyed the first episode to my podcasting series, and I can't wait to catch you on the next video. Peace.